Hey, friends, Chris here again, and I want to continue this series on learning to live by sitting with the dying. And this is episode 4 that I'm calling We Are All Saints and Sinners. Some spaces I walk into as a hospice chaplain that, if I'm not careful, I can start telling myself a story about the people before I actually know them. You ever do that? This story is about one of those spaces. There was a mom, after a lifetime of really hard trailer park living, was now dying in a Medicaid facility with no other resources. There wasn't any money. The ex-husband, who had lost his own legs through his own difficulties, both of his legs, with his own challenges, he scrounged up just enough for a bare bones cremation. That's it. She had 3 adult kids, all 3 of them deeply on the struggle bus. One was surviving just on part-time work, bare minimum, barely getting by. One had resorted to selling herself just to make ends meet. And another had recently been released from prison after serving time for a violent offense. If I stop the story right there, you could probably fill in the blanks, right? We all do that, don't we? We hear trailer park, we hear sex work, we hear prison, we hear poverty, and we start deciding who the good people are and who the bad people are, who's respectable, who isn't, who are the sinners, and who are the saints. Here's what I encountered. Their mom started dying, and these kids showed up. They showed up. They had no money to fix anything. They couldn't buy themselves out of what was happening. They had themselves, so they gave her that. They sat with her. They touched her. They talked to her. They cared for her. They stayed. And I watched this woman respond to the presence of her children. She was no longer able to respond to them outwardly, but something changed when they were there with her. There was a peace about her, though unresponsive. Her dying seemed less hurried somehow, as if she was resting in the presence of her own kids. None of her circumstances changed. She hadn't suddenly become, a beautiful life. The trailer was the same. Bank accounts were the same. Their past, nothing had changed. But something sacred was happening in that room. They knew how to show up and love their mom when it mattered. When life asked of them, they showed up when it mattered. And after sitting at enough deathbeds, I've learned that don't take that for granted. Death doesn't care about your resume. I've sat with families who had money, education, successful careers, beautiful homes, really good people. And I've watched some of them struggle terribly when death entered the room, because death makes us all vulnerable. It takes away our illusion that we control anything at all. You can't negotiate with death. You can't put it on a credit card. You can't add another 0 to your bank account and make mortality disappear. Sometimes people who have spent a lifetime with plenty of ways to distract themselves don't know what to do when that kind of vulnerability shows up. So they disappear. They stay busy. They avoid the room. They don't know what to say, so they say nothing. And I'm not judging them either. Grief does really strange things to all of us. That's part of the point of the humility of all of this. Death doesn't care about your resume. Eventually, it comes for all of us, rich and the poor, educated and uneducated, the religious and the irreligious, people with spotless reputations and peoples whose mistakes become public record. Death is the great equalizer. I do want to say, though, that proximity changes things. Where you're at, it changes something in the room and in the atmosphere. Working with people who are poor and marginalized has taught me something else. It's really easy to have opinions about people you've never sat beside. From a distance, we have categories. Up close, we have human beings, and human beings complicate things. From a distance, she's a woman selling sex. Up close, she's somebody's daughter trying to survive. From a distance, he's a violent offender. Up close, he's a son sitting beside his dying mother. Doesn't mean his choices don't matter. It doesn't erase harm. It doesn't make destructive behavior good. It simply means the worst thing that someone has ever done isn't necessarily the totality of their character. We're not the worst thing we've ever done. We're complicated. We're more than that. And neither is the best thing we've ever done who we are. That's true of them. It's true of me. It's true of you, friend. We're all sinners and saints, every one of us. We're capable of selfishness, and we're capable of great generosity. We're capable of being brave, and we're capable of being cowards. Destruction and tenderness. Sometimes in the same person. Sometimes in the same day. If we're honest, our lives are uneven. I've met people society would call successful who couldn't enter the room when suffering came. And I've met people society had practically thrown away that knew exactly what to do. They showed up. They stayed. They loved. In that sacred space and time, these three adult kids, weren't their worst days. They were simply children saying goodbye to their mom. And she knew they were there. I watched the peace come over her. That's what I remember. Not the poverty, not the prison record, not all the things that might cause someone looking from the outside to judge this family. I just remember human beings loving another human being. Someday, death will enter every one of our stories. Mine too. We'll discover that it is the great equalizer. In that space, life will ask of me, will you show up? Will you enter the room when you can't fix what's happening? Will you sit beside somebody when you don't have words? Will you stay when staying hurts? Will you love someone when love costs you something? Because maybe character isn't ultimately revealed by the categories society puts us into. Maybe character is revealed in those moments when love requires something from us. That family taught me that. They were complicated people. So am I. Saints and sinners. All of us. And on one of the hardest days of their lives, when love required something of them, they showed up. And that's something I'm still learning about living by sitting with the dying. Peace, my friends.